So when you hear the name Jeffrey Epstein, your mind probably goes straight to the tabloid stuff, right?
Oh, absolutely. The plane, the island, the big names.
Exactly. But today, we are tossing all that out. We're looking at a new report that treats this whole saga less like a crime story and more like an engineering stress test.
And the scary part is the entire structure just collapsed. We're
Hmm.
diving into the AI Accountability and Institutional Reform Report.
And its whole premise is that Epstein didn't so much outsmart the system as he was just heavy enough to, break through the floorboards of global governance.
And we're going to look at exactly where those beams snapped. The goal here is to really unpack how the legal, the financial, and even the tech systems just failed over and over again.
Okay, so let's start at what the report calls the main inflection point. The 2008 Non-Prosecution Agreement, the NPA.
Right. This is ground zero for the institutional failure. You have federal prosecutors with what should have been an airtight case for sex trafficking.
A case that could mean life in prison.
A life sentence, yes. And they essentially traded it all away for a much, much weaker state-level deal. It's like having a royal flush and just folding.
Why? Why would they do that?
Well, the report suggests it created what it calls a culture of impunity. The deal was negotiated completely in secret.
And they shut out the victims, which is against the law, right? The Crime Victims' Rights Act.
It absolutely violates the spirit of it.
Mm.
And the terms were just staggering.
Yeah.
It wasn't just immunity for Epstein on these federal charges.
Just for everyone.
It was blanket immunity for named co-conspirators. And this is the key. Any potential co-conspirators. It was a legal force field around the entire network.
And then there's the work release program. I mean, this part is just...
It's a different system of justice. He was technically incarcerated, but leaving jail for 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, to go to his private office.
That's not a sentence. That's just a really awful commute.
Pretty much. But to maintain an operation on that scale, you need cash, you need banks willing to look the other way.
Which brings us to the financial side. The report really zeroes in on JP Morgan Chase and then later, Deutsche Bank.
Right. And it's not just about the big fines we heard about. It's about the mechanics. The report highlights all these large structured cash withdrawals.
And structuring is basically just money laundering 101, isn't it?
It's the classic red flag. You're breaking up big transactions into smaller chunks, just under that $10,000 reporting threshold, specifically to avoid scrutiny.
So the bank's internal alarms must have been screaming.
You'd think so. But this is where the report introduces this idea of a halo effect. Meaning when a client is that wealthy, that connected, compliance officers hesitate. There's this internal hesitation threshold. They assume there must be a good reason for the weird transactions because he's a VIP.
And when JP Morgan finally did cut him off in 2013, he wasn't locked out.
No, not at all. He just picked up his accounts and walked them over to Deutsche Bank. The report calls it institution shopping. The risk wasn't eliminated, it was just transferred to a competitor.
So the legal system fails, the financial system fails. Which brings us to the mess we're in right now. The Epstein Files Transparency Act passed last year.
Yeah, 2025. It was supposed to be the moment of sunlight, the great disinfectant.
And instead it led to what the report calls the redaction crisis.
A complete and tragic catastrophe. The Department of Justice releases 3.5 million pages of documents a few weeks ago.
But the redaction technology, the AI, and the human reviewers, they failed.
They failed spectacularly. And they ended up releasing the personal identifying information of thousands of survivors, the very people they were trying to bring justice to.
Just violated their privacy all over again.
It's devastating. And it actually connects to a really fascinating part of the report, the AI roundtable. They had 5 independent AI models analyze the entire case history.
And what did they find?
They all came to the exact same, pretty bleak conclusion. The criminal justice system was, statistically speaking, useless in this case.
Useless because it was too open to human influence and negotiation.
Precisely. The only accountability mechanism that ever actually worked, according to the AI, was civil financial settlements. Hitting them in the wallet was the only thing that stuck.
That is a damning indictment of our entire justice system. So where do we go? The report proposes some big tech solutions.
It does. Things like immutable indexing and federated compliance networks.
Which sounds complicated.
But the ideas are simple. Immutable indexing is basically using blockchain for court documents. Once a file is in, it can't be lost or altered.
Carved in stone.
Exactly. And federated compliance is like a shared blacklist for banks. If JP Morgan flags you for human trafficking, Deutsche Bank automatically knows. No more institution shopping.
So you're shifting the trust from people to code.
Which, when you look at this whole story, might be the only real path forward.
And that really leaves us with a heavy question to end on, doesn't it? If our institutions are naturally built to protect the powerful, to preserve their own revenue, can we ever truly rely on human oversight alone?
Or do we have to build a system where an algorithm, an immutable truth, is what holds people accountable? Because a handshake deal no longer can.